Welcome to another episode of The Art of Volunteering. I'm your host, Stormy Bell. And today I'm just so excited to have my friend Kelsi on. We met last year at an Impact Summit. She was one of the speakers, and she's dynamic and engaging. And I know you, my audience, would enjoy hearing her as well. So welcome, Kelsi Waltemire Palmer.
Thank you.
Kelsi is a self proclaimed super communicator. She's held many different roles professionally, working in advertising, marketing, sales, and management. After losing two positions in a matter of 5 years through company restructuring, she established Kite and Anchor in 2018. The goal to assist local businesses and nonprofits in navigating growth of all kinds. Kelsi holds a BS in communication. She coaches girls' high school soccer and softball and is an adjunct professor for workforce solutions and continuing education, teaching management courses and leading professional development training. So I appreciate that. And I agree, you are a super communicator.
The term, but I decided it should be. So
Look,
I
I love that.
much for having me, Stormy. I'm so excited to be here today.
Been a while trying to get you on the schedule. I'm like, yes, we got her. Yay, we're in between sports seasons.
That is exactly how my life is, a series of seasons, in fact.
That's awesome. All right, let's start with Kite and Anchor. I love the way you overcame adversity with a completely new vision. Let's just go there. What did that look like?
Well, first it was for the first time in my life, giving my plan was I thought my life career path, everything was fully giving it to God and saying, you know what, whatever you got next, I'm ready for it. Yep, not expecting within 12 hours to be fired from my full-time job, in fact, for reasons I didn't necessarily agree with, but I just giggled the entire time. I was like, I asked for it, not what I thought was going to happen. However, yeah, God works in mysterious ways sometimes. So it was based out of force, to be honest with you. And I came home and I was perfectly fine. And I said to my husband, I think the next chapter looks like 8 part-time jobs or so. And ironically, I've been doing that now for 7 years. So through Kite and Anchor, I started because I knew getting fired, I had to coach my employer, in fact, how to correctly do that. So I went back to get my certification in HR because I had a feeling there's lots of nonprofit organization, lots of mom and pop, family generational type businesses that just don't have all the resources of the big corporate jobs. And I thought that I had the skills to be able to help them run their businesses or organizations more efficiently in whatever capacity based off of my skill set. So again, lots of different skills. I just get bored very quickly. And so this has fueled my attention span. I get to work with lots of different industries, learning all kinds of new things, and just being able to sometimes just bring a light and an outside perspective to people who are stuck in a certain situation, whether that's related to employee relationships, whether that's recruiting new customers or even new employees or volunteers, growth situations, people succession leaving jobs where we don't have any idea what's next, and just lots of different exciting things. And I am very clear to know what I'm good at and to say, yes, I'll do that. But I'm even more clear to know what I'm not good at and just passing on those opportunities. And ideally, kind of promoting someone else that I know that I've worked with that is good at those things because I only want to do what I want to do. And that's the benefit of running your own business. You can do that. And so I choose to work with organizations and businesses that are future focused, that have a little bit of a different personality, little different perspective, and can think kind of outside the box instead of just the mentality of, well, I've done it this way for so long. I'm just going to continue to do it this way because that's crazy. The whole world is different than what it used to be. So should all of our business models.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
the
Totally.
easiest way to say it all very quickly. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's always something exciting, something that I'm passionate about. And passion is one of my 3 Ps:
Mhm.
passion, people, and purpose. It's my website, it's my social media handles, it's everything that I do. And if it doesn't check one of those 3 boxes, then the answer is no for me.
I love that. I think that's awesome. So, let me ask you now, when you work with these companies, do you going off all the things you just said of how you help them, do you help them with volunteer strategies?
I do.
So
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Absolutely. Mostly focused around the nonprofit organizations, but there are actually employers that I've worked with to build programs within their organization that says, hey, it's kind of an expectation that our people are going to go out and do something good in the community. So putting that into perspective and adding that program into whether it's employee wellness, I believe it is, because I think emotional and spiritual and physical health are all very important. So is mental health. And I believe that volunteering can give you a whole different set of blessings that you're not used to having if you're not spending time doing those things. So we've added that into the business model, the more corporate America aspect, how people are going to start volunteering, what those expectations look like, how frequently it is, do they get to choose the organization, what that standard is for their organization moving forward, but also nonprofit, more strategy around how to recruit and retain good quality volunteers and who those people even are because they may not match the mission or the vision of the organization. Yet, oh, but it's somebody to help and we'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? It doesn't matter what you care about. We'll just put you anywhere. And I absolutely disagree with that because the people that are volunteering have to have a passion or a purpose or want to work with certain types of people. And that's ideally where the sweet spot for, getting volunteers to help any organization comes from.
Right.
So yes, on one side, and then helping the volunteers understand, teaching courses about what you should look for when you're going to volunteer for an organization, and what are those absolutes for you or those non-negotiables that you're willing to. If they communicate way too much, I already do that with work. I don't want to do that in my free time or volunteering. It should be easy. Okay, how do we make it easy for people to want to volunteer with your organization? And so there's lots of conversations about that from the marketing and advertising, even the human behavior world that I kind of work in, and borderline psychology. I just don't have that degree yet. But thinking about, how do I make decisions? How do other people make decisions? We only have so much free time. We have to spend it with family and friends and doing house projects. And how much of that time do we actually have to donate free, right? We don't get paid to volunteer. We'll talk about that later. But how is that free time divided and how do you capitalize on some of that free time for people that you want to be with your organization?
I love it. Like, totally understand.
I told you passionate. I warned you.
Ah, I think it's great, because you touched on a lot of different things, like with purpose. Volunteering does give purpose. I've been in other conversations about the community aspect. How, first of all, community has changed in our digital age, post COVID, what that looks like, and building that through volunteering is just ah, it's so necessary, and organizations need to be aware of that. And then not looking at it as program, but maybe more as a strategy, what that outworking is. I was in another conversation. She's going to be a guest on the podcast, and she's just very adamant about they're not programs, they are strategies, and strategies that meet the mission and vision of the organization, and then going into realizing that your volunteers are your ambassadors, your evangelists, and what that looks like, and just how that goes into the greater community and impacts at so many different levels. We might not be able to put matrix around all of them, just as a result of it. And you're speaking right to it. You talked about earlier, I'm like, you're speaking my language.
You said plans and it's more of a strategy and an ongoing. I always call it's got to be a working document too. And you can't
Yeah.
just decide this is what we're doing to retain our volunteers because again, things change every day and that has to consistently be evolving too so that your volunteers continue to stay happy. And I'll tell you the one thing that I'm very specific about when I work with any organization, I've been trained to communicate. I'm really good at it. And in fact, I get better every day because I teach courses on it and things like that. But I love to learn new things. And the one thing I always say that is the hardest to communicate are our expectations and our accountability, especially as it relates to volunteers. Because,
Yeah.
well, my gosh, well, they're already giving of our time. And, we can't expect too much, though, Kelsey. And I've been told that. And I said, no, agree to disagree, in fact, because I think a lot of people don't volunteer because they don't know what to expect. And in this world, you brought up COVID, the world's never going to be the same again. And for so much, even in the HR world, we depend more on community as that workplace. So we used to just go and have, coworkers and have conversations and we get our job done, and it serves us a purpose for professional growth and, what we do for a living, and it pays us, right? But then we started asking, okay, but we're not seeing our friends, we're not seeing our family, we're not doing all of these things. So now I come to work expecting all of those things are going to be checked off. That's a lot of pressure for a workplace or an organization to meet. And so
Right.
I think we're kind of 5 years past and learning all kinds of different things. I can tell you it completely impacted the way I teach and train, because you can't not mention it, because the world's completely different than what it was before. So if we're doing those things we've always done, but expecting for a different result, that's not going to happen. It's insane to think that would happen. And that's the definition of insanity, right? Like, we can't expect to do the same thing the way we've always done it, but get different results. And that's unfortunate, because I think a lot of people just get stuck in the way. Well, this is just the program or the plan or the policy or the procedure in every aspect of business and nonprofit worlds. But we have to tweak those consistently, and we have to listen to our people and ask the questions to say, what do you care about? I'll help you find somewhere to volunteer, but I need to know first what you genuinely care about.
Right.
And when you think about changing the world, in what aspect? Because it wouldn't make sense for you to volunteer here if that's not something that you genuinely want to change or see changed in the world.
Oh,
So I think just
absolutely.
with better communication, I mean, and this is kind of where all those pieces fall together, Stormy, is what I do professionally is it's who I am. I just don't do that job. It's who and I can't stop myself from having those conversations in the middle of a Target one day randomly, because I can't stop talking about it. And I think more people need to understand, if they volunteered the right way and we encouraged them to figure out what that looks like. We gave them some expectations and then said, "Oh, and by the way, next time, it'd be great if you were here 10 minutes earlier, like I asked, because this is why." And if we don't hold these people accountable, we think we're going to lose them. Oh my gosh, we can't upset any volunteers. But we just have to be better about communicating with them what the expectations and what their role as a volunteer is. And a lot of companies have that, especially nonprofits. They give it a job description basically for what a volunteer looks like. But then nobody says, "Oh, by the way, you're not meeting that. I'm going to hold you accountable because that's what we do in the workplace and we should be okay with it." But we get our feelings hurt sometimes. And I think with just better communication and people understanding that you can ask questions about volunteering, especially if you're new at it. And there's a lot of people that have never volunteered before. It kind of blows my mind. But
Yeah.
the fact is, it's that mentality. I heard this on a TED talk, I think, one time. It's it's like, what's in it for me? And we have to stop thinking about ourselves if we want to volunteer and be a good volunteer in any capacity, and think about what it is for someone else. And we will get blessings back also. My one thing, volunteering never pays, someone told me. And I said, actually, it does, just monetarily may not be that way. So it'll pay you in some capacity, may just not be paying money that volunteer usually do for free, actually. But yeah, I think it's just changing the conversation about being a volunteer and getting people excited about it. And I've had some really good mentors, and I'll never forget this conversation. Being in the church world, it's somebody that I work with on a regular basis. I'm communications, public relations, hospitality, in charge of volunteer teams. But I also lead by example, and I wouldn't ask anyone else to do what I'm asking them to do as a volunteer if I'm not willing to show them I do it too. And I think that's really important. It's a leadership model, right? And yet volunteers like, nope, you got to be here then, and yeah, I have to do this, and I'm gonna be here, so don't ask me any questions. But that's not the way we need to lead volunteers either.
Right.
That's a long answer to a
That's okay. No,
yeah.
I'm gonna
Stop
pick.
sometimes. I get
No,
on.
that's I'm catching up with what I'm hearing. All right. I'm going to take one piece of what you said earlier, and I want us to come back to it. Volunteers working for free. My son goes, "Mom, you want people to work for free?" And I'm like, "Yes, but you get so much out of it." And
Yeah.
that's what you're saying. So can you go a little bit more into that?
So I was in corporate America at the time, and forced to kind of do these initiatives with our employees and encourage them to volunteer. And I have lived a whole life, full disclosure, volunteering, because my parents led me to understand what that looked like, and they did it. And so they modeled that for me, thank God. And I do thank my parents every day also, for helping me understand the importance of that and having those experiences, because it's made me more passionate now as an adult and doing what I do. I think it's funny story. The actual comment was, Kelsi, you know what they say about volunteering? It just doesn't pay. And so I kind of use that jokingly all the time. And I think it is our expectations. And if we have certain skills, everybody has skills and gifts that they can bring to any organization, whether that's, hey, I'm just really great at filing, right? And maybe that's the volunteer opportunity, but understanding what that is and how you align. I think it's hard for people to get when they've never been shown honestly what that looks like. So we were doing a Habitat for Humanity build, and our bank was like, yeah, absolutely, sign us up. Kelsi, you're in charge. Get all the people and have them all come and do all the things. And the first thing I think is, my skills do not align with building a house. What? I can't do that. And then to say the roles and the responsibilities that we expect from our volunteers can be simple, but it also can be, you know what? Perfect thing. You don't need any experience, in fact. You might be, painting a wall, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay. And then, so getting those conversation opportunities to understand what is actually being asked of us, especially in a professional world when I'm asking you outside of work to come and not be paid for a couple hours,
Right.
that can be a lot for people, especially maintaining and balancing all the other things that we have to balance. But I think understanding too, like I always say, I promise you, first time, guaranteed you'll see what I'm telling. Give me one time to prove it to you that it's worth it, and that I promise you it will feel like you're being paid.
Yeah.
And so usually that'll get them. I'm a little. I've been told I can be a little intense.
Really?
So yeah, I'm like, one chance, just give me one chance. And you know what? If you don't feel good, that's okay. But the other thing I think people understand a little bit, again, what's in it for me? I'll tell you what's in it for you, actually. And this is a question that I was asked. When life seems like it's given us all lemons, right? I mean, you're just like, oh man, what is going on? This can't be. Work's not great. Family life could be better. My relationships. I haven't talked to my best friend and forever. Whatever. All those things pile up sometimes, and instead we again are trained to think about ourselves. What can I do? What can I do differently? What can I change? But I think sometimes when people are having those struggles and they are asking for help, one of my mentors in the church world said, the first question I ask is, where are you serving? Not are you serving?
But where?
Where are you serving? And that changed my entire perspective, because guess what? Those bad things kind of stop happening or minimize at least a little bit when you're getting filled by serving other people.
It's true.
And it's just it's how it's a filter now on my brain all the time without even thinking about it. And I ask it, where are you serving? What do you mean? I'm not a waitress. I'm not a waiter. No, no. Where are you serving of your time, talent, skills somewhere in the community? And they just look at you dumbfounded. Well, I'm not. Okay, I encourage you. Start volunteering. I guarantee you some of your problems start to decrease.
Absolutely.
And I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. I
Right.
can only speak to my own life experiences, and that's all that we can understand too. So if you've not had a volunteer experience yet, I'm telling all of you that are listening, please, 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 you're watching this for a reason. Go find or do something new if you've been volunteering for the same organization or the same cause maybe. And you're just exhausted, because I feel it. Burnout in volunteering is a real thing. And maybe just switch that perspective, get into a different environment, and I think it would probably fuel you in some way.
Absolutely. I had another thought as you're talking about people's the world, their outside world is falling apart, and how volunteering can help them, get past that. I think you truly see that if you're in a situation where you're volunteering for someone who has a greater need than you. And you realize that for the many times, not always, but many times, like, oh, my life's okay. I get to go home from this. This is their reality. And just taking that in and just really putting life into perspective.
And I'm a little different regionalized space, but a lot of the issues here, and a lot of what our church has made a point to feed back to. One of our mottos is literally church about community, and that doesn't mean the people inside our walls. That means everybody outside of it, in fact. And so we got very quickly introduced when the church started almost 20 years ago now to our homeless shelter here, and it's a faith-based homeless shelter, low barrier and part of the year, cold weather shelter, right? And when I came on board, I said, oh, I have experience from my old church. I'll take care of that. And so I quickly became the volunteer coordinator for our homeless shelter week. And I think it has definitely changed the way I think about that, that I don't want to call it an opportunity, but that place in life that people are at, because talk about gratitude and all the things that we talk about all the time, right? That we know makes us feel good. But to see it happening, and, I think there's a lot of fear in that too. You want me to what? You want me to come feed people that don't have a house? Like, it, people can't conceptualize. So I had to really dig deep to figure out how to explain it to people, so that they would want to participate, because we were struggling finding enough volunteers. And I run a
Mm.
whole week from Sunday to the following Sunday. And we have a huge church, but every time it was our turn, it happens once a year, it was like pulling teeth to get people to want to be there. And so I kind of changed the perspective, and we started having a lot of fun. We're known as the hippie church in our area. And mostly it came from wanting to spend time sitting down and eating with the homeless people. We're not just going to serve you, we're going to come and actually serve you and sit and listen and pray for you and play cards and board games and watch TV. And oh my gosh, we're going to do karaoke. We're bringing a karaoke machine. Now we've created a different in the culture of the homeless shelter. So people want to be there, right? And it's not just to give back and feel that you get that heart feeling that I'm doing something good for someone who doesn't have what I have. That's always going to be there. But now we're creating fun, and you're interacting with these people, and you're talking a little bit more with them, and you're understanding their story. How did they get to the situation where they are? And what can we do to help them get out of that situation and see them grow and see them prosper? And that's a whole different way of thinking about serving at the homeless shelter. And so it's been one of the most challenging roles I've had as a volunteer. I will be 100%. I may have even said I was going to quit last year, multiple times, in
Oh,
fact.
my word.
Done. My time is up. I've done what I can do. And I'll tell you the craziest part. It's not the homeless people. It's not the people that work at the shelter. It's my volunteers, because they're exhausting. And I am so passionate about volunteering, but also as a volunteer, we have to make it a little bit easier on the people that are organizing that aspect too, because questions, and I was very clear, I'm a super communicator. I'm going to email you all of the stuff. You'll have it by this day. And they did. And here's a map, and here's a link to the application, and here's everything you need. However, oh, I don't do email. Can you text it to me? Can you call
Yeah.
with 150? No, I am not going to do that. In fact, slash love you all. I don't want everybody to have my personal cell phone number either. And
Yeah.
so the fact is, managing expectations from the volunteers too. We can say, here's what we expect from you, but managing their own expectations to say, I'm already freaking out. I have to go to the homeless shelter. I don't know where it is. I don't know what time I'm supposed to be there. What's going to happen when I get there? So I try to explain all of that very far in advance so that no one has questions. And that's not a reason for them not to show up, because we live in the world where everybody has anxiety and feelings. And I'm an introvert and I can't be around that many people. And I'm an empath and I'm going to suck it all in. I get it. I'm all the things, all of the things. And I understand, but I think we need to give people a reason that they should be there, not reasons why they shouldn't come.
Right.
I think we get in our own head sometimes. It's just easier if I stay home on the couch. But you're missing those blessings from serving someone else, and getting that feeling of what it feels like. Sheer
Right.
joy, I tell people. I can't explain
Yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I just love it. And there is something in it for us as well as the people we're serving.
Purpose, community, well-being, all the things, all the things. Okay. We've touched on this a little bit, but your core values, you've talked about your church and the hippie church, and the homeless shelter. So I love how all that, and I love what your church motto is: connect, relate, and serve. Right. I love that. My home church is know, love, and serve. So very similar. Yeah.
And people want, life more interesting. You can say whatever 3 words you want, and it just works now.
Yeah, that's true. But I like them. All right. Talked about quality of life. We've talked about that a little bit. And then finding your passion, people, and purpose. Just aligning those personal values and missions. So you've hit all your core values, and I didn't even have to ask you about them.
And I didn't even look at my notes once,
This
Storm.
is awesome. All right. So as a volunteer leader, and we've talked about the homeless shelter, can you share a story of impact where you can directly say, I did this, or the group of people I was serving with, and we saw this, whatever this is, happen? Can you share a story? Or
Ooh.
maybe, or your top two and keep them short?
So I think, oh man. One of my favorites, specifically from the homeless shelter, is the fact that our church is a come as you are mentality. We tend to cater to the non-church goer. And what I mean is the traditional, grew up in the church, know all the Bible stories, went to Sunday school, did all of that. We reach out to the people who are the unseen, the unheard. So homeless is a lot of what we deal with actually at our church, in fact, on Sunday mornings. And I think a lot of that, the one thing that I tell people when we go to the homeless shelter, I make it very clear every single day when my volunteers come in, team meeting, huddle, let's go. Here's how things are going to work. Thank you for being here. Number one, we always start with thank you because you don't have to be here, and I realize that, and appreciate it because you're making my life that much easier. I could run this whole place by myself. However, having help makes a big difference, and so I always start with gratitude. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? And I'll probably cover those, but what I like to remind them is unfortunately, the church has had the opportunity to get a negative connotation about how we tend to treat people. And if we think about the way things were when Jesus lived and how he lived his life, he went to all this. He went to the unexpected people, and our church does the exact same thing. So we have had multiple people that we see at the homeless shelter as residents kind of transform and start to think differently, and we invite them to church immediately, right? And you know what, we have a hippie van, it's tie-dye, we'll come pick you up. In fact, you gotta be ready at this time, we'll be out front and we'll bring you to church. And so every year I see that as the wins for me, right? Like, how many people did we actually impact by having dinner with them and sitting down with them on a conversation or praying over them, or and then we invite them to church. And it's cool when I'm not the only one seeing that, but my volunteers for the first time ever are stepping so far out of their comfort zone to be able to even be in a vicinity like that, but to grab a plate and sit next to someone and start to ask them questions and like, hey, no judgment, right? And from a genuine place. We don't say it, we live it. And then invite them to church and see them come and help them to get an apartment, or maybe they just need a ride somewhere and that's stopping them from getting a driver's license to get to the next step. And you uncover these things that they deal with on a regular basis that are so easy for some of us because we have vehicles and we have the flexibility with our jobs to be able to leave to go to a doctor's. And they start, how can I help? What else can I do, Kelsey? One week's not enough because they get so pumped up. So I'm like, we need something after that, because you're almost on this volunteer high, I call it, because you see these things happening and you're part of it, maybe for the first time ever in your life. And you're like, what? They got an apartment. What? That's awesome. Like, we talked about it. And so it's one of the reasons that I have stuck with it for so long. And even if I say I'm gonna quit, I'm not, because it brings me so much satisfaction and selfishly, honestly, to see volunteers see the progress within people. And that's because partially because I was there and I was part of that. And I did one little thing, but now this person went from being homeless with no job and now has a job and is getting an apartment. Like, that's a huge testimonial right there, and a story for them to share. I just get to be a bystander. And I have plenty of my own stories about that, but seeing other people experience that joy and that satisfaction for what they were a part of is, oh, it's addicting.
Yes,
I love I love it.
that soft glow, that those endorphins that go up, it like it does so much, and that's part of the paycheck.
So the other part is our church is graciously the host of Tim Tebow's Night to Shine prom event. We've done 2 years. We're working on number three now. And we didn't know what to expect the first year. And we had people volunteering who had never volunteered before, brand new to the. I don't even think I'm allowed to do that. I'm not been anointed to. No, no, no. We accept everyone. We have a rule. Everyone gets to play. That means you. So you better come help us. And so we needed so many people, and for the first time, a lot of these people seeing how an event runs, and we do a lot of community events, backpack giveaways every year before school starts, free food, pantry stuff, everything. So it's a good thing we have a big church. But for the first time ever, people who are seeing how an event is playing out, basically, and they're participating, but they're not really sure because they're kind of standing back and just observing for their first big event. And not feeling like they're in a place where they can say anything, except some people. And we have a rule that if they have anything nice or otherwise to tell us about the event or questions, sometimes they come straight to me. And I handle those versus our events person because they've spent hours and hours and days and weeks and months planning this thing for it to be perfect in their mind. And so it's so efficient and works the way it's supposed to. And we have lots of rules to meet and things to do. And so they come to me. And one volunteer who I have known for many, many years in different capacities comes up to me and says, "Hey, Kelsi, can I give you some constructive criticism?" And I
Uh-oh.
said, "Nope, nope. The answer is no to that. I am not accepting, in fact, any constructive criticism. However, being a church, I would encourage you to go home and pray about it. And if you still feel the same way as you feel right now about whatever you're about to tell me, I'm happy to have that conversation, but not day of, because we need to focus on what we're doing right here and the people in front of us. I am always open to suggestions." I said, "But when you say constructive criticism, that already alludes to a negative kind of thought process. And I am such a good place right now. I'm not able to accept that. And maybe it could just be a suggestion to make something better." And she was like, you saw it happen where she was like, I just reframed the conversation. No, I'm not going to accept whatever negative stuff you're about to tell me. And because you can read it on the face sometimes, especially when you've been doing this for so long. However, I'll get you to think and make it maybe a positive thing. This could have worked better if, and come with solutions as to how you would do it differently. Because when we start telling people, you have that ability, in fact, and I'll listen to anything you have to say. And maybe we tried it, but you don't know that because this is your first event. So before you tell me everything that's wrong, take a look, stand back, observe, and maybe look at everything that's right. And then we can have this conversation in a couple days when the event's over, in fact. And we've had time to process it because we do. In our church fully believes we celebrate wins. And if one person's life was impacted positively, then that's a win for us. We
Absolutely.
have super wins. And I like to kind of remind them sometimes it's not always a win. And we got to talk about those things too. So I started wins and woes now, and we talk about those maybe not so positive things, and then ask for suggestions from everybody on the team as to how to make them different.
I have to borrow that. I like wins and woes.
Listen, I hired my friend who's a kindergarten teacher. I said, "I need some creative, easy ways to think about this." And I
Oh,
told her and she came up with it. So all credit due to her because she said it. And I was like, roses and thorns. We had a couple different ideas. We were workshopping.
I appreciate that. All right, now we're going to flip the script.
Okay.
Can you share a blooper? Now remember, a blooper does not mean that it went wrong. Like people think blooper, oh, like failure. No, it just means that you thought you were going to go left, but you end up going right, and you learn something from it. What does that look like?
Oh gosh. This is and I can listen, I'm focused mostly on church because if I talked about all the organizations I volunteer with, we would be here for probably 6 more hours. When you want to do a 24-hour thing, you let me know and I'll be part of that. But
Okay.
I'm sticking to the church because I think it's easy for people to kind of understand. Also, I do a lot with veteran causes and quality of life, disabilities, and serve in that capacity too. But it all focuses on that one. And I'll go back to what I said, Stormy, that non-negotiable for me. It has to be about benefiting and raising the quality of life for somebody. So veterans, obviously, I mean, we know what the science says, and I want to do stuff that makes people who served our country's lives a little bit better. And then those that get left out, the homeless community, people with disabilities, just it's a difficult world to live in if you're not made for it or you don't understand and you're not open-minded and open-hearted to kind of learn new things. So I use the church as my main example. I'm saying because it's easy for people to kind of understand. So on Sundays, our church has 3 services. I'm in charge of 2 volunteer teams: the parking team, the first people you see as you come into the facility, and then also the welcome team. High fives for Jesus, everybody. Making sure people feel at home, and that is a job that I take so seriously. Kind of what I get paid as a church staff member to do, but I probably go a little bit above and beyond. It's not hospitality isn't in my role, communications and PR is, but it's a personal care that I want every single person to come through there feeling like they should be there. Because there's a lot of feelings of why people don't come to church. I've read the science, I could give you all the facts, but we have to make it feel more comfortable for people. And especially when those people might be homeless and they just need a snack. You know what? We find a snack for them, and or they're on drugs and they just need some time to come down and we get them water, and we deal with this every single week. So I really highly encourage when we do trainings for our volunteer teams, and trainings are important if you're not doing that, to just set the expectations and help people walk through it, role play. Hey, if I walk through the door and it's my first Sunday, what are you supposed to say to me to make me feel welcome? And so we take that job very seriously, and genuinely it pays. We have three services. We see about 1,000 people average on a Sunday morning, not to even count our online audience. And so it comes with a lot of responsibility to say, here's how we're going to do this. This is what we believe in. Do it your way. But basically, we don't ever say, is it your first week here? Hey, how long you been coming here? That just changes the conversation a little bit. So tons of bloopers, but my favorite one is about the parking team. We struggle with having enough parking in our parking lot, and so sometimes between services, things get backed up. People are staying late to talk to people because community, and we're supposed to do that, but also get in your cars and leave. So thought process, that balance, right? And so my husband nicely was voluntold to lead our parking team. He's an extension of me, and I think he can do that really well, in fact. And he's in the security world professionally. You got this, buddy. And so we built up a team and we said, hey, we're going to help you. Not people can park, but very specifically to try to keep the flow going and things. So we started standing out by the exit. There's one entrance and one exit, hard enough to get people to come in or out the right ways. So my husband started standing out in the middle of the road to encourage people to turn right, in fact, because it was quicker for traffic flow. Um, I'm standing doing my job on a Sunday, and somebody runs in and says, Kelsi, your husband's been hit in the street. And I said, what? What? Is he okay? I did ask that first. I kind of laughed a little bit, only a little bit. And I said, well, is he all right? And somebody said, yeah, can confirm he's okay. So in fact, it was one of our friends that goes to our church that hit him because she was turning left. You can turn left, but we highly encourage you to turn right. In fact, Jesus says turn right out of the parking lot. He loves you more. And the thought process, she wasn't paying attention. He's standing trying to tell her, go that way, go that way. Hit nips him. He kind of goes up over top of the hood and handled it really well. But now it's a very hilarious joke in the church, in fact. And there's a reason that we ask you to turn a certain way because this is what happens. And so getting people that idea, again, there's going to be expectations and there's going to be accountability. We now have, I'm proud to say, we now have a sign that says right turn encouraged on Sundays. We can't make it mandatory. In fact, we went through all the logistics of the traffic and the county and all that stuff to make sure we couldn't make it mandatory. But it was a blooper, but we've learned so much from it. And now it's a funny thing, like, oh, you want to be on the parking team? Oh, by the way, you might get hit by a car, but I mean, it'll be fine. It'll be funny. If you are extra bounce proof, even better, right? And we have safety vests now, so ideally, the fluorescent helps with that.
So people can see you standing in the street directing him.
To be honest, story, it's so funny, but like failure sometimes people know this, right? I'm
Yeah.
not recreating anything. I'm just reminding people failure teaches us so much about what we don't know. And so, like, now we have a much better team and a structure for that team and what we expect. And oh, by the way, we're holding our people in church accountable to taking care of our volunteers. If you're not going to volunteer, at least don't hit them with your car. And it's
Right.
now a funny way to say, no, 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 we're all in this together. And so, whether you're choosing to be here and serve somebody or do something extra to help out on Sundays, or if you're not, it's all inclusive. And that's how our organization runs. And that's that mission and the vision to always be getting people in on community because it does pay. It pays.
All right, my dear. This has been an awesome. Our time is like flying by. So we're
Yeah.
at it's not really even a question, but we're at the point in the conversation where I give you the microphone. So I'm going to give you the platform and I want you to love. If you've been to Philly, you've seen the great big love sign, capital letters, love. So you can love on kitten, what is it? Kite and Anchor, or you can love on the hippie church, or just something that we didn't cover that you really want to share. The mic is yours.
Oh man. I'm looking at my notes. I think I literally wrote everything I wrote down.
That's
We
awesome.
covered it. That's a great conversation. I'll tell you that. But I'm also never going to turn down an opportunity to talk about myself. No, I honestly want to say, and I've had lots of honest conversations, the way that I lead others, the way that I run my business, the way that I volunteer, the way that I encourage other people to volunteer, everything that I do, the way I teach, the way I train professional teams. everything I do, I want it to be a great experience. I've named myself in my company Kite and Anchor. I came up with all of it by myself. No, best thing about running your own business, you don't need to prove it with anybody but yourself.
Right.
And usually you like your own ideas. I do have a professional board of directors that I use as sounding boards, but when I came up with Kite and Anchor, it was because they were conflicting, right? And I think a lot of people think that's weird. I don't even know what she does. And I hear that all the time. Tell me what you think I do, and we can have a conversation about it. And I think in all my recent conversations, even teaching communication, supervisors, how to lead better, there is a very important piece that I think a lot of people are missing. And we have so many resources um, to be able to communicate that it gets over excessive sometimes and honestly quite exhausting. And I'm in communications and I know I have a whole different standard for myself. But I think when I joke, like people say, I don't do or I don't do email, can't you just text me? We all have different expectations and different life experiences. And the one thing that I can't just, everything that comes up, every topic, it comes back to we can only understand to our level of life experience or our level of understanding. And I know it's sad to say, secret, not everybody wants to learn all the time and be engaged and want to get better, right? And so one of the things that I make my personal mission statement every day, I get up and I'm okay, before I go out into the world, what am I going to do? Like if I can just impact people to think a little bit differently, to get a little bit out of their own way, to kind of imagine a world where blank, and it changes, starts to change the way they think and their perspective on life, and how they can get involved, because you know what, in fact, we'll take you, it's okay, you can volunteer, and oh, you can even lead volunteers, we'll show you how to do it, we'll give you the skills, but you're already there most of the way if you just show up wanting to do it. And so when I'm teaching professional adults, sometimes they're forced to be in my class and I say, I get it, it's okay, but I'm going to make this the best training course I can make it, because I'm going to be honest, if I was in your shoes, I would not want to sit here death by PowerPoint and be bored out of my mind for the next 4 hours. So we're going to make it fun. Are you cool with that? And so like getting people to engage and participate in whatever the thing is, and making everybody feel like they're a part of it. And I think we like look for volunteers and like, oh, we got to bring in 100 people. What does that experience look like for every single one of those people? And not thinking about the greater good. Well, if the group's kind of fine and there's no questions, check the box. No, no, like let's just have a conversation with each one of them. Make it a point to know what in what aspect do you want to actually serve? There's lots of opportunities. And if it's not listed, give me what you're good at and we'll figure it out, right? But we don't stop to ask people what they want or what their expectations are, or why have you never volunteered before? Or what's going on in your world, so if something happens I need to know, right? And if you're not going to be here, I'll know to pray for this thing. And so I think I keep coming back to it. It's kind of community like we talked about, Stormy, but I think it's a lot more of telling people we should have expectations. Now COVID's over. We can talk to one another face to face in person. You don't have to text me. You don't have to do email. You don't have to send 8 different platform messages to me. You know what I mean? Let's just have a chat. And I think that's so weird for people to understand anymore. And it's like we didn't come back from what we came back from. And so I kind of want to just see everybody listening, anybody that listens to this, if you can just challenge yourself to just have more real conversations. And I think that's where the world really will start to change.
Amazing. Amazing.
I'm on another level right now. Teaching, I love it because it's sporadic and it's short. But when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I could change the whole world and everything's great. And then, again, seasonalities. And so I need to keep reminding myself we can do that every day. And just by having conversations with people and wanting to learn new things. One last thing, and I'll kind of leave it with this. But when I teach communication, I read this book. One of my all time favorite people that I've watched TED talks, read her books, was an NPR reporter, and she's giving tips on how to be a great communicator, right? And she should know most of reporting is listening when you're interviewing people. And she said, we don't have to pretend to be good communicators. And like they tell you, nod and smile and ask questions so they know you're listening. And she says, well, you don't have to know if you're actually genuinely listening, and going into every conversation or every communication with anyone that you work with or volunteer with, they know something that you don't know. And if you go into a conversation realizing you have the ability to learn something new, and or be challenged, then you don't have to pretend to listen because it's engaging and everybody should want to do that.
Why that's why I enjoy these conversations for the podcast because I learn so much from everyone.
Celeste Headley is her name.
Celeste Headley. All right, we'll put her name in the show notes and maybe we can connect with her. Okay. Thank you for being my guest today.
Oh,
I have
yes.
so enjoyed it. It's been worth waiting for. To my listeners, I know you found value. I know every one of you enjoyed this conversation. So if you would rate and review wherever you're listening, that helps others hear about this impactful journey. Just what volunteers are doing worldwide. So thank you. And I love the fact that together we transform the fabric of our society. That is something that's a joint mission that we are all on. So to everyone, I look forward to seeing you next time on The Art of Volunteering. Have a great day.